Tim Norman will remain in custody until his trial date. On the Case starts right now. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jay So Extra, and if you are new here, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so that you can get updates on more cases. Today's video is going to go over where we stand right now with the Tim Norman, Terica Ellis, and Wael Yagnam murder for hire case. On Tuesday, October 13th, Tim Norman had an initial appearance hearing, an arraignment hearing, and also a detention hearing in federal courts in St. Louis, Missouri. At the end of the detention hearing, Judge Nanette Baker said that she was going to look over the evidence that was presented by the prosecutor and also Tim's lawyer, John Rogers, before making a decision on whether or not to grant bond or deny Tim's bond request. On Friday, October 16th, the judge came back and denied Tim Norman his bond, and I just want to read to you what is written in court documents. Order of detention as to James Timothy Norman. It is hereby ordered that the United States motion and supplemental motion for pretrial detention are granted. The defendant is remanded to the custody of the Attorney General or to the Attorney General's designated representative for confinement in a corrections facility separate to the extent practicable from persons awaiting or serving sentences or being held in custody pending appeal. The defendant must be afforded a reasonable opportunity for private consultation with defense counsel. On order of a court of the United States or on request of an attorney for the government, the person in charge of the corrections facility must deliver the defendant to a United States Marshal for the purpose of an appearance in connection with a court proceeding. Signed by Magistrate Judge Nanette A. Baker on October 16th, 2020. As it mentions in the court documents, Tim is to be separated from any other persons who are in custody awaiting trial. Tim was either diagnosed with COVID or had come into contact with someone who had COVID, which is why he had to be quarantined. And that was the purpose or the reason for the delay in his arraignment hearing. So now that he will be in custody, they are taking further precautions by keeping him away from any other inmates or prisoners. In the previous video, I also mentioned that the prosecutors made a motion for a complex case finding, which means that instead of adhering to the guidelines and the dates and the timelines of a regular trial, because of the Speedy Trial Act, you're supposed to start things at a certain time from the moment the person was arrested, arraigned, so on and so forth. But because there's so much evidence to gather and there are multiple defendants involved in this same case, the prosecutors requested a complex case finding for not only Tim's arraignment, but also Terica's and Wael's. That motion was granted by Judge Nanette Baker. And also it's very important to note that the trial involving Tim, Terica, and Wael, they are all being named as co-defendants in the same trial. The trials have not been separated. They're all wrapped together in one trial because they're all connected in a conspiracy case. Now, the attorneys do have the opportunity to request that the trials be separated, but that hasn't happened at this moment. During Tim's hearing on October 13th, the judge reiterated that she is calling a status hearing on December 2nd with Tim's lawyer, Wael's lawyer, and Terica's lawyer. There were a lot of questions about Tim's new lawyer, John P. Rogers. So I'm just going to throw up a copy of the document on the screen so that you guys can see what's happening with Tim's legal team and how he's being represented. So let's go over that right now. Okay, as you can see at the top left, it says defendant James Timothy Norman. And then on the right, it says represented by Daniel Shatnick. There's his information there as far as where his law firm is located. And then underneath it says lead attorney, attorney to be noticed, and his designation is CJA appointment. I mentioned before that a CJA is a criminal justice attorney who works underneath the federal prosecutor's office. They are private attorneys, but when you have a situation where the public defender cannot represent the defendant, they bring in private counsel who acts as a public defendant, and they call them a criminal justice attorney, which means they are working for the best interest of the defendant, but under the guidelines of the federal government, and they will be paid from the federal government as if they were a public defender. Now, obviously, private attorneys can warrant a lot more money or a higher retainer fee, but when you're working under the government as a public defender or a CJA, your retainer and your legal fees are going to be within the confines of what the government would pay any other public defender. So at this time, the only attorney being paid by the government to represent Tim is Daniel Shatnick, because he is working as a CJA. Now let's go on to John Rogers, who I mentioned before in my previous video. All right, it says John Rogers of Rogers and Savatianos. It has their address there. And then underneath the email address, it says lead attorney, attorney to be noticed, designation retained. Again, there's a difference between retaining a lawyer and being appointed a lawyer. So the Daniel Shatnick has actually been appointed by the federal courts to defend him or to represent him, but John P. Rogers has been retained as private counsel, which means that his attorney fees, John P. Rogers' attorney fees and legal fees, are being paid for out of pocket by someone. It doesn't say who is paying his legal fees, but it does mention that he is being privately retained. As I mentioned before, John Rogers was asking the court for a designation of learned counsel so that he can be designated as a CJA to represent him and be paid from the federal government. But at this time, he's being paid out of pocket. The document goes on to say that Tim was represented by someone named Lavelle Littleton, and that's his address there and information. And then it says that was terminated. His representation for Tim was terminated on October 13th, which was the date of Tim's initial appearance, hearing, arraignment hearing, and detention hearing. And it says that his designation was a CJA appointment as well. And then before that, it shows that Tim was represented by the St. Louis Federal Public Defender's Office, and that position was terminated on September 30th. Many of you have asked me how you can go about witnessing these public hearings, and I have the information here, and it is listed in these court documents. So I just want to be very clear at this point that this is all public information that you all can find online, but this particular document grants the public the access and gives the information as to how you all can witness these public hearings and even the trial that's involving Tim, Terica, and YL. So here's the information that is listed in these court documents to grant the public access to these hearings. October 19th, order as to James Timothy Norman. It is hereby ordered that the government motion for complex case finding and to continue trial date beyond limits set by the Speedy Trial Act is granted as to James Timothy Norman. It is further ordered that the deadline for the defendant to file pretrial motions or notices of intent not to file pretrial motions will be set at a later date. It is finally ordered that a status hearing is set for December 2nd, 2020 at 10 a.m. that's Central Time before the undersigned, which is Judge Nanette Baker. Only counsel are required to attend. The hearing will take place by Zoom. Hearing participants will receive a separate email with a link to join the hearing by Zoom. Members of the general public who wish to listen in to the hearing are directed to call the following number to participate by phone: 1-669-254-5252. Meeting ID 161-093-7910. Pursuant to Local Rule 13.02, all means of photographing, recording, broadcasting, and televising are prohibited in any courtroom and in areas adjacent to any courtroom, except when authorized by the presiding judge. This includes proceedings ordered by the court to be conducted by phone or video. So again, a quick note that you are allowed to call in with the number and the meeting ID that I just gave, but you are not allowed to create any audio recordings of the conference. And then if you were able to access video, you were not allowed to record any of the video from the conference. So that's all I have for today. And right now we're just waiting until the status hearing of December 2nd. So I won't be doing any updates on this case until then. But in the meantime, I still will be working on updates on the Tory Lane case, the Jam Master Jay case, the Silento case, the new case involving fraud with Baby Blue from Pretty Ricky. He is accused of stealing money from the PPE fund, which was created to support small business owners during the pandemic. I'm also following the case of Ron Jeremy, the adult film star who was arrested on sexual assault charges. Still following the case of Danny Masterson from That 70s Show. He was accused and charged with 3 rape and sexual misconduct, sexual assault charges, and any other cases that come up involving celebrities and criminal instances. I will be giving you guys updates on those cases. Make sure that you follow me on all of my social media at JSoExtra. Again, if you guys have a case that you want me to look into specifically, then send me a tweet and make sure you use the hashtag #JOnTheCase. I've gotten a few tweets, so I'm working on those cases right now. Thank you guys so much for that. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell to get updates on these cases. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And until next time, stay safe.